бизнес-образованием стоят задачи гораздо более масштабные, чем подготовка будущих предпринимателей и руководителей компаний. Темы формирования благоприятной бизнес-среды и правила построения отношений с государственными институтами обсудили в рамках открытого интервью ректор бизнес-школы Skolkovo Andrey Sharonov и руководитель международного подразделения по стратегии и развитию лидерства сети компаний PricewaterhouseCoopers Blair Sheppard.
I think there's a couple of things that are important as background to this, which is the framework for business and its relationship to government and society, I think in virtually everywhere in the world is broken. In the United States, part of what happened is we became, business people came to believe that all regulation was bad. And so what we did was try to eliminate regulation, and there was actually a field 25 years ago on soft regulation, which is what's the regulation that actually makes markets work and work more effectively. But it essentially got eliminated as a discipline because we just said regulation's bad. In other places, what happened is they created a system where the taxation couldn't sustain the system. But in virtually everywhere in the world, the framework between government and business is broken, and I think that business schools have a major role to play in essentially both preparing business people who are more sophisticated citizens of the country, but also engaging in the conversation and convening the conversation around how we actually make the framework work. Right? So if I took an example, I think in Russia, there's a challenge around creating the regulatory regime that makes it easy for new businesses to get started. I think Skolkovo could play a role in that conversation.
По мнению Андрея Шаронова, приоритетной задачей в работе Сколково является формирование новой бизнес-элиты, которая могла бы стать проводником качественных изменений в российской деловой среде. Он отметил, что необходимо работать над изменением негативного отношения к бизнесу в обществе, а бизнесу, в свою очередь, задуматься о своем вкладе в развитие социальных институтов.
New forces to develop our society, and if we would look around where they are, where they might be, and what type of elite, social elite could be a driver or drivers of the social development, I guess that the business community probably is number one social group and social elite who can drive the social development in our country. And it's interesting that today during our supervisory council headed by Mr. Medvedev, someone mentioned that Skolkovo is not just a school and even not just a business school. It's a place to grow and to upbring elite, and to provide opportunity to communicate between, to arrange a communication between business and power and authority. And it's very important mission, and it could be an engine for social development through this dialogue between different elites and the business. And the second thesis I would like to mention is the attitude toward business in Russia. We just discussed with Blair, it's in advance, and I guess we have some, for me it's obvious disadvantage. It's public opinion towards business as a type of activity, as a style of living. Definitely, many people, if we're talking about public opinion, assess a business activity as some sort of cheating. And it's very serious task, both for business, for any social community, and the government, to persuade people that it's very important that business takes risk, provide job places, spend its own money, and provide the prosperity. By the end of the day, it's a prosperity. Unfortunately, very often, or much often, we see another discussion and way of thinking. Unfortunately, business sometimes give negative examples. And people use it to confirm this negative attitude toward business. So, to be short, it's a bit, what is important, it's a dialogue between business community as a driver for social development with authority, any level of authority, and the changing mind in terms of public opinion. I'm talking about attitude towards business as activity, as a style of life.
Unique situation, we're just very close to the starting point. I'm talking not about the Skolkovo, I'm talking about the country. And this genre of business school are very, very young in Russia. And in this sense, Skolkovo has a tremendous advantage to be the leader of this process in such a big country like Russia. But we face a lot of challenges and mistakes, and probably it's reasonable and wise trying to avoid and to create a solid entity as soon as possible with no mistakes, if it's ever possible.
Блэр Sheppard отметил, что создание школы Сколково важно не только в масштабах Москвы, но и в глобальном контексте развития бизнес-образования в России. По его словам, инновационный подход и опыт создания новой деловой среды, которые существуют здесь, может быть использован и другими бизнес-школами.
As good business people, we need to understand we have a reciprocal obligation to be citizens. As citizens, we need to understand that we have to have business people. I think Skolkovo has the requirement of reconciling that dilemma in the school and then spreading that to all of Russia and the rest of the world.
К дискуссии Андрея Шаронова и Блэра Шепарда присоединился преподаватель и директор стартап-академии Сколково Лоуренс Райт. Он отметил, что одной из главных ценностей Сколково является свобода экспериментировать, быть гибкими и давать знания и навыки, максимально адаптированные к тем задачам, которые будут стоять перед будущими выпускниками.
One of the great things about Skolkovo is that it's really given me in particular, and I think in others as well, as we see new products coming online, the freedom to experiment, the freedom to try new things. And with Startup Academy, we're able to do things that it doesn't seem possible in traditional university structures with very conservative policies and rules. The rules aren't here. They're not as strict. And so there's much more flexibility in terms of trying these things and trying to make the application of very specific skill development programs, not general sort of knowledge programs, to be more effective, more targeted, to actually deliver success.
Еще одной темой обсуждения стала социальная ответственность бизнеса.
If you start with profit immediately and you forget the raison d'etre of the firm, then you might miss the opportunity to create sustainable true advantage. I think at some level, one of the mistakes we've made in business schools is we've put profit or shareholder value as the only thing, rather than shareholder value in the context of the reason you exist as a firm. And we need to get back to that premise.
Блэр Шепард выделил несколько основных принципов, на которые, по его мнению, должно опираться современное бизнес-образование. Понимание глобальных процессов, происходящих в мире, развитие предпринимательства, инновационные технологии в обучении, а также практическая составляющая – применение полученных навыков в бизнесе.
I think Skolkovo has a really difficult task, which is to be both a relatively nascent school, a relatively new school, that's trying to actually be the school that everybody else wants to be, right? So there are sort of a set of trends that I think Skolkovo is speaking to that are absolutely right. One of them is we live in a multinodal world, that there are many, many centers of political economic power, and that if you're going to do business globally, you need to understand all of them, and they're actually quite different from each other. The second is that entrepreneurship is really important. The third is that technology is both a way we teach, but it's also a thing which is that's transforming society. It's transforming society. So, and a fourth is that the problems that we're grappling with don't sort neatly into single disciplines, right? So that most of the important problems that business is trying to address are not finance problems or marketing problems or operations problems. They're all of the above. And that is, and then the final one is that translating what we learn in school to practice is actually the hardest thing to do as a professional. What's interesting to me is that Skolkovo was predicated, it was founded on trying to address those 5 principles. Every school in the world is trying to go from something that didn't do those 5 things to something that does do those 5 things, and you started that way, right? Which I think is really wonderful. The challenge is it's really hard to be different from everyone else as a startup, right? As an institutional startup, it's really hard. And I actually admire deeply what this school is trying to do. I think that if we can achieve even 3 of those 5 or 2 of those 5 as a school, the world will be better for it because others will have to follow, right? So I think the most important thing that Skolkovo has to do is succeed.